So I love my AirPods, but every once in a while they fall out. To fix that, I decided to make an AirPod connecting cord. Instead of spending $12 on Amazon, I decided to do it for free using bits and pieces I had lying around the house. For this project, you will need some mushroom ear tips from an old pair of earphones, just remove the tips and set them aside for later. Some heat shrink tubing. I have a few different sizes. This is the largest size you'll need. A piece of wire, in this case I'm using the headphones that I took the mushroom tips from. A pair of scissors, some super glue, and something to shrink the shrink tubing. In this case I'm using a blowtorch. You can just use a lighter. The first step is to take the earphone wire and separate them into just single strands of wire. Cut off a long section and then decide how long you want your AirPod connector cord to be. I'm going to use my original cord for reference. This time I want to make it a little bit longer. So make sure you're happy with the length and then snip it. Next step is to take the thinnest piece of shrink tubing. It should be just thick enough to get over the end of the wire, and snip off about 1 centimeter. Then cut a second piece the same length. Next, take the super glue and dab a little bit on the end of the wire. And then slide the shrink tubing over the wire. And use heat to shrink it down. Then do exactly the same thing with the second piece of shrink tubing. Then take the next size up of shrink tubing and cut 1 centimeter, and repeat the process again. And it should look something like this. Next up, take the largest piece of shrink tubing and get those mushroom tips. And what you're going to do is turn the mushrooms inside out and trim off that excess material. So you're just left with a little hard piece in the center. Take that piece and slide it inside the shrink tubing, and take the second piece and do the same thing, and have it just flush with the edge of the tubing. Grab the blowtorch and shrink down the shrink tubing. And you'll see that keeping those two silicone pieces in the other end prevents it from shrinking down too much. it should look something like this. So you're going to trim this piece. So using the piece of wire with the heat shrink on the end, you're going to size up how much to trim off. You want it to be about the same size. So then take some kind of rod or even a fork and poke out the silicone pieces. And keep those aside because you need them for later. Next, go back to your piece of wire. Dab some glue on there. You're going to slide that into the smaller end of the other piece of shrink tubing. Leave it a minute for the glue to dry, and then take the glue and smear some on the inside of the larger end. And push one of those silicone pieces into the tube and line it up flush with the very edge. Give that a few minutes to dry, and you should have something that looks like this. Now repeat the entire process for the other end, and you'll end up with this.